A man intimately addresses his beloved, setting a deceptively tender tone. He reveals his dark triumph of obtaining the rank of count through marriage, coldly anticipating his wife's impending death. Caressing another woman, he looks forward to finally being with his true love once his wife is out of the picture. A betrayed woman confronts August, horrified to realize his entire facade was a calculated deception. She furiously demands to know if his affection was entirely fabricated while he secretly cheated on her. August smirks and callously admits the truth, confessing he only ever coveted her personal fortune. He brutally crushes her spirit, stating she possesses absolutely no redeeming qualities beyond her wealth. Complaining about the agony of faking his love, he breathes a sigh of relief as her life violently slips away. As she gasps his name with her dying breath, August exults that his true life can finally begin. He crafts his perfect alibi, plotting to frame the gruesome murder as the tragic loss of a beloved wife to illness. A sudden gasp fractures the grim scene, tearing the narrative away from the tragedy. A young woman bolts upright in bed, panting heavily as she escapes the horrifyingly realistic nightmare. Still disoriented from the vivid terror, she notices a figure looming near her bedside. A blond man beams with sheer relief, deeply thankful to see her finally open her eyes. He fusses over her condition, explaining his panic over her recent carriage accident. The man softly calls out her name, Lydia, anchoring her to the current reality. Completely bewildered, Lydia stares blankly and asks the stranger for his identity. He panics at the thought of her losing her memory, though she quickly waves it off as mere confusion. The man introduces himself as August Blend, cheerfully dropping the bombshell that he is her fiancé. The name triggers a massive revelation, making her realize she has reincarnated into a novel from her past life. She recalls her past as office worker Herminagi, remembering the romance fantasy about a duke and a saintess. Dread sinks in as she identifies August as the story's ultimate villain, noting her own name is completely absent from the plot. Piecing the puzzle together, she deduces that as his fiancée, she is destined to become his nameless wife. She realizes with absolute horror that her earlier nightmare was a premonition of her own brutal murder at August's hands. August notices her violently trembling hands, forcing her to mask her sheer panic behind a fake smile. He ominously shifts the conversation, bringing up the suspicious amount of time since her father's fatal carriage accident. Gazing intently at her, the villain proposes they finally tie the knot. He lists off a terrifying string of recent misfortunes, from a storage shed fire to a falling painting. Feigning deep concern over her own carriage crash, he leans in and whispers his fear of losing her. He demands the right to protect her by staying at her side forever, trapping her into nervously accepting his dangerous proposal. August announces his impending trip to the capital, promising to finalize their marriage registration tonight. Kissing her hand affectionately, he commands her to rest and boldly declares his love. Uttering a hollow echo of his affection, Lydia watches him leave while quietly scoffing at the ridiculous farce. Staring into the empty room, she reflects on the absolute sham her life has become since that fateful time. A grim memory surfaces, revealing stern officials ordering her to vacate her family premises by a specified date. Because her late father produced no male heirs, the arrogant officials explain that her rightful title and property seamlessly passed to her distant relative, August. Isolated from high society and utterly friendless since her mother's passing, a devastated Lydia breaks down as August approaches. Playing the benevolent savior, August claims he has absolutely no intention of driving her out, feigning shock over his massive inheritance. Wiping her tears, a hesitant Lydia questions how he will possibly explain keeping her around once he inevitably takes a wife. Springing his trap, August smoothly suggests they marry instead, leaving the present Lydia to bitterly realize she was played for a fool. Connecting the dots to the novel's plot, she remembers he inevitably murders his wife to seize her massive personal fortune while pocketing the meager territory funds. Driven by survival, she desperately searches his desk for clues. She knows with absolute certainty that every stolen coin is destined solely for his true love. Plotting her escape, she deduces that a unilateral annulment will protect her flawlessly if she can just secure undeniable proof of his infidelity. Fueled by righteous determination, she resolves to uncover the damning evidence and abandon the cursed estate immediately. Rifling through his belongings, her eyes widen as she unearths a hidden, incriminating letter. The nauseating parchment reveals August longing to bury his face in his lover's supple black hair, boasting that his newly stolen wealth makes him a proper noble. Utterly repulsed by the disgusting confession, Lydia celebrates finally securing the perfect ammunition. Scanning further down the page, she scoffs at his impatience, noting she never even wanted marriage so soon after her father's tragic death. The letter takes a dark turn as August praises his lover as a great sorcerer, marveling at how quickly her magic took effect. A chilling realization strikes as Lydia remembers the novel's villain hired a sorcerer to cast a seamless death curse on his disposable wife. Analyzing her recent carriage crash, she suspects the accident was a cursed attempt on her life, though dying before the wedding would currently ruin his plans. Shoving the looming threat of curses aside, she swiftly grabs a pen to capitalize on her newfound evidence. Bypassing the nosy servants, she drafts a concise breakup letter exposing his infidelity and officially annuls their engagement by post. A maid interrupts her scheming, completely oblivious as Lydia gleefully prepares for her impending journey. Flashing a deceptive smile, she lies about meeting August and confidently chooses to travel via stagecoach to guarantee her covert escape. Bidding a cheerful farewell to the confused staff, she bounds out the door and charges headfirst toward glorious freedom. Chuckling to herself inside the rattling stagecoach, Lydia enthusiastically embraces the thrilling start of her second life. Her peace shatters as fellow passengers loudly discuss the upcoming monster subjugation battle occurring in the Black Territory in merely 2 months. The gossiping travelers reveal the formidable Duke Aldaria leads the royalist forces alongside the Crown Prince. Overhearing the escalating political tension between the royalists and the former Prime Minister's faction, a terrifying forgotten detail suddenly jolts Lydia's memory. Panic sets in as she remembers August's ultimate villainous act, volunteering to assassinate the Duke and Crown Prince in the Black Territory to secure immense power for his wicked lover. August weaponizes Lydia's inheritance to hire a dark sorcerer, unleashing magically enhanced monsters into the Black Territory. Pushed to the brink by the beasts, the Duke turns the tide when Itoil unleashes her saintly power, violently cutting August down. Knowing the villain's cautious nature, Lydia realizes he will desperately hunt her down to secure his funding before his inevitable ruin. If captured, the tyrant will force her into marriage or forge her will before slaughtering her, guaranteeing her death. A concerned passerby notices her pale, terrified expression, prompting Lydia to snap out of her dread and insist she is fine. Crushing desperation sets in as she realizes constantly running away from a relentless villain is a doomed strategy. The helpful stranger gently suggests she visit the nearby temple to find holy solace for her heavy burdens. A sudden spark of brilliance ignites within Lydia as she enthusiastically agrees, realizing she finally has a weapon. Abandoning her cowardly flight, she sincerely thanks the stranger and resolves to gamble her life on a daring new offensive. Determined to strike first, she plots to weaponize the powerful royalist faction to orchestrate August's total condemnation. Towering before her, the Grand Temple stands not as a place of worship, but as the secret gateway to her salvation. Approaching a cloaked priest, Lydia bows her head and confirms she carries a heavy, dangerous burden. Feigning innocence, she claims to suffer from horrific nightmares and boldly drops Viscount Sainwood's name as her referral. Introducing herself as the late Count Courtney's daughter, she braces for the priest's reaction to her calculated infiltration. She knows this holy ground is merely a front for Blue Dawn, a ruthless shadow organization run by capital nobles. Lacking the mandatory letter of introduction, Lydia must cleverly disguise her clandestine request while exposed in this public space. The priest attempts to brush off her claims as mere illusions, forcing Lydia to double down and push past his rejection. Speaking in bold metaphors, she warns of a flock of white sheep marching toward a black horizon, corrupted by a single black sheep. Staring the priest down, she fiercely asks if the church intends to just avert its eyes from such a disastrous prophecy. She gambles that hinting at a plot to annihilate the royalists in the Black Territory will force the shadows to take her seriously. Sensing her immense value, the priest finally bites and demands a steep, personal price to awaken her from this nightmare. Without a shred of hesitation, she offers her most precious possession, an emerald jewel left behind by her deceased parents. Silently begging her parents for forgiveness, she trades the gem matching her eyes to guarantee her survival and forge a new future. Handing over a donation check and her hotel address, she prepares to sever her engagement and await the organization's move. Once Lydia departs, a hidden noble emerges to question the priest, immediately exposing her forged connection to Viscount Sainwood. Baffled by her dangerous insider knowledge, the operatives note that her late father had absolutely zero ties to their underground network. The hidden leader requests the forged introduction letter and the precise details of the young woman's audacious proposition. Staring at the evidence, the shadow operatives hesitate on how to handle a rogue noblewoman who knows far too much. Stepping fully from the darkness, a commanding presence declares he will personally take full responsibility for this intriguing client. Back in her temporary sanctuary, Lydia lets out a long, trembling breath as the crushing weight of her gamble washes over her. Realizing the letter alone isn't enough proof, Lydia admits she cannot return to her estate to scour for further evidence. Refusing to surrender, she prepares countermeasures against August Blend, knowing the villain won't remain silent once her annulment letter arrives. With fiery determination, Lydia swears to survive this deadly plot and secure a peaceful life for herself. Stepping into her first ball since her debut in a hastily bought evening dress, she relies on her meta-knowledge of the story's power dynamics to survive. Recognizing the unmarked invitation sent to her hotel, she identifies the Royalist Count's ball as a covert summons from the Blue Dawn. Staying on high alert, Lydia scans the room, fully expecting Viscount Sanewood to make his move after she dropped his name at the temple. Suddenly, the ballroom erupts into shocked murmurs as the aristocratic crowd gasps at a stunning new arrival. The Duke of Aldaria makes his magnificent entrance, his overwhelming presence instantly seizing the attention of the entire hall. Embodying the novel's flawless prose, the Duke possesses hair as dark as the night's veil and eyes shining with the brilliant hues of dawn and twilight. Liege El Ramlay, the imposing Duke of Aldaria, stands before the crowd like a velvet cloak woven from the very fabric of dawn and dusk. Radiating a flawless, overwhelming aura, the leading royalist Duke proves far too dazzling for a mere mob character to comprehend. While graciously exchanging pleasantries with Viscount Willia, the Duke suddenly halts, his sharp gaze locking onto a new target. His piercing eyes cut through the bustling ballroom, zeroing in with unnerving precision. Panic spikes through Lydia's chest as the breathtaking noble strides purposefully in her exact direction. Halting right before her, Liege smoothly addresses her as Lady Lydia Selcia, the daughter of the late Count Courtney. Caught completely off guard by the sudden spotlight, Lydia freezes and lets out a startled gasp. Liege claims her late father was very kind to him, plunging Lydia into a panicked spiral of utter confusion as she confirms her identity. Knowing perfectly well her father had zero connections to the Duke, Lydia realizes he is lying straight to her face while apologizing for missing the funeral. Feeling the burning stares of the gossiping nobility, she humbly plays along with his fabricated story, completely baffled by the unprecedented attention. Leaning in with an impeccably graceful bow, the mesmerizing Duke extends his gloved hand toward the bewildered woman. In front of the stunned aristocratic crowd, Liege smoothly requests the profound honor of a single dance. Trapped by the sheer weight of his status, Lydia forces a polite smile, having absolutely no idea what dangerous game this man is playing. Yielding to the crushing social pressure, she accepts his hand with feigned pleasure, knowing someone of her standing cannot refuse a duke. Swept effortlessly onto the grand dance floor, Liege leans close and asks if she is nervous. Suspecting he is trying to eavesdrop on the crowd, Lydia remarks on how closely he stands, politely praising his captivating nature. Unfazed, the Duke playfully likens the gossiping nobles to desperate butterflies fluttering around them in search of sweet nectar. Catching her completely off guard, Liege boldly uses her first name, whispering that Miss Lydia captivates just as much. Flustered and internally screaming, she begs him to restrain his teasing, desperately wondering if this entire charade is tied to her secret request. Liege cryptically denies teasing her, leaving Lydia to frantically wonder why a high-ranking member of the Blue Dawn would single her out. Realizing a mere mob character mingling with the main hero is dangerously unnatural, Lydia resolves to withdraw the very second the music ends. Bowing with deep reverence, Viscount Sanewood formally excuses himself from the Duke's formidable presence. Duke Aldaria seizes the moment, revealing he knows Lydia consulted his aide regarding her persistent nightly terrors. Flashing a captivating smile, the Duke extends his hand and smoothly suggests they prolong their dance. Swept back onto the floor, Lydia silently stews as their second waltz yields absolutely no progress on her critical request. Sensing her growing frustration, the Duke playfully questions her obvious dissatisfaction while she scrambles to mask her annoyance. He dramatically feigns offense, wondering aloud if sharing a waltz with him is truly that dull while he thoroughly enjoys every second. Lydia sharply demands to be released if this is a mere joke, warning him that his romantic teasing is a complete waste of time. Instead of taking offense, Duke Aldaria erupts into genuine laughter, leaving Lydia completely bewildered by his sheer amusement. His smirk sharpens as he finally yields, demanding she detail the exact horrors of her nightmare right then and there. The pair continue their intense waltz in complete silence as the heavy atmosphere of the grand ballroom swirls around them. As the sweeping music draws to a dramatic close, the Duke suddenly breaks the silence and shifts the mood. He confesses his desire to proceed with their main business while boldly admitting he simply wants to prolong their time together. Lydia's heart plummets into her stomach as the Duke daringly asks for a third consecutive waltz, a public declaration strictly reserved for imminent engagements. Panic completely paralyzes her mind as she desperately tries to decipher what on earth this chaotic man is plotting. Furious whispers instantly ignite across the crowded ballroom as shocked nobles loudly question this unprecedented public display. Shattering the tense standoff, an astonished noblewoman suddenly barges into their space and loudly calls out the Duke. Lady Merlind eagerly interrogates them about their relationship, handing Lydia the perfect excuse to smoothly deny everything and escape. Before Lydia can formulate her escape, the Duke boldly interrupts, declaring he would be utterly delighted if she returned his hidden feelings. Lady Merlind practically melts at his romantic confession, leaving Lydia silently fuming at the massive disadvantage he just orchestrated. Trapped in a corner, Lydia realizes that accepting or refusing will trigger a catastrophic romance scandal that will completely obliterate her freedom. Piercing her with an intense, calculating gaze, the Duke aggressively challenges her to make her ultimate move. Weighing her options, she disgustedly realizes that rejecting his creepy advance might permanently destroy her one chance at getting his help. Swallowing her immense pride, she gracefully curtsies and fully accepts his dangerous invitation with the deepest respect. Closing the distance with a triumphant smirk, Duke Aldaria whispers his profound appreciation for brilliant women. Staring back with icy defiance, Lydia completely guards her expression while silently despising the sly man before her. Maintaining her flawless aristocratic facade, she dryly replies that she is deeply honored by his high praise. As their final dance concludes, Lydia scowls in absolute disgust as the Duke drops all pretense of hiding his true feelings. She ruthlessly blocks his unconsented hand kiss, coldly stating she ignored his extended hand to protect his honor from a blatant breach of etiquette. Stunned by her ruthless rejection, Duke Aldaria finally realizes that she truly harbors zero romantic interest in him whatsoever. Rather than correcting him, Lydia silently confirms his deduction, vastly preferring to avoid this dangerous man as much as humanly possible. Clutching her aching head, Lydia dismisses any pointless relationship with Liage since the hero is already destined for another. Fixing her gaze, she boldly declares her interest lies only in someone willing to genuinely listen to her words. Intrigued by her audacity, the mysterious man pauses as a calculating thought crosses his mind. Leaning in with a captivating smirk, he challenges her by asking if he should become the exact man she desires. Wasting no time, he smoothly redirects the conversation by gesturing toward a concealed carriage waiting out back. He playfully teases her for standing blindingly close, asking her to step back a fraction to spare his eyes. Flustered, Lydia questions the meaning of their 3 waltzes, desperate to confirm if his Blue Dawn faction truly hates lies and will hear her out. With a dismissive wave, he reveals the dance was merely a strict screening process for his clandestine organization. Accepting his hidden terms, she nods quietly and boards the awaiting carriage first. Inside the dim cabin, tense and silent preparations begin to unfold. Watching her frantic movements, he dryly notes how incredibly busy she seems to be. Lydia shifts uncomfortably in the cramped, covered carriage, feeling utterly suffocated by the lack of scenery. Acknowledging the rough ride, he assures her this suffocating journey will prove incredibly worthwhile for them both. The atmosphere violently shifts as a crushing, oppressive pressure entirely replaces the light-hearted ballroom banter. Dropping all pleasantries, he coldly demands to know exactly what she wants in exchange for her tale of the black sheep. The very air inside the carriage thickens with lethal tension as the true negotiation commences. Refusing to be intimidated, Lydia fiercely braces herself against his overwhelming, shadowy aura. She hardens her resolve to dominate this negotiation and brutally carve out her own happy future. Staring him down in the suffocating dark, she marshals every ounce of her courage for the final pitch. Speaking plainly, she reiterates her dark prophecy of a single black sheep marching toward a black horizon. She accuses the hidden enemy of plotting to mercilessly purge the royalists using vile, forbidden sorcery. Masking his true thoughts, he feigns absolute terror with a chillingly unreadable expression. Sensing his utter lack of seriousness, Lydia carefully calculates her next move to flawlessly bait the trap. She boldly proclaims that while not a direct victim of sorcery, her life remains perilously entangled in the plot. Springing the trap, she reveals the villain's plot to murder her and steal her vast inheritance. Playing her ultimate trump card, she exposes the scheme to enhance monsters in the Black Territory and claims to hold damning written proof. Connecting the deadly dots, he realizes her desperate survival perfectly aligns with the survival of the Royalist faction. Pushing her massive advantage, she sharply questions if they truly wish to avoid a catastrophic defeat in the Black Territory. With unflinching, iron resolve, Lydia drops her ultimate demand to permanently remove the black sheep. Conceding to her ironclad logic, he finally accepts her ruthless argument as Lydia exhales a massive breath of relief. The Duke coldly dismisses Lydia's claims, stating flatly that her story lacks all credibility. He violently raises the stakes, warning her that passing false information could lead to criminal charges and shake the nation's core order. Refusing to fold under pressure, Lydia boldly promises to reveal the hidden letter only if he formally accepts her desperate request. He ruthlessly tells her to give up, but she fiercely declares she will not surrender her only leverage without an ironclad promise. Struggling to crack his impregnable defense, she confesses that the crucial evidence is safely stashed away at her hotel. The Duke scoffs and casts heavy doubt on the letter's actual value, instantly forcing Lydia onto the defensive. He verbally corners her with razor-sharp logic, demanding to know why someone truly in mortal danger would hesitate to produce proof. Launching a brutal interrogation, he exploits her slippery wording and points out she never confirmed the letter held the damning evidence she claimed. Noting her ragged breathing and violently trembling body, he crushes her fading composure beneath his relentless, suffocating pressure. He ominously warns the bold but inexperienced liar that the elusive Blue Dawn organization absolutely despises deception. Looming ominously over her, the Duke coldly questions if she is truly willing to throw her tomorrow away over a foolish act. Sheer panic spikes through Lydia's chest as she realizes this